In the annals of history, few events are as dramatically averted as the Mongol invasions of Japan. Twice, in 1274 and again in 1281, the vast armada of Kublai Khan, the great Khan of the Mongol Empire and emperor of the Yuan dynasty, set sail for the distant Japanese shores. This wasn't merely a conquest, it was a testament to the Mongol will to dominate the known world. But as their ships neared the coasts, a powerful force intervened. The legendary Kamikaze, or divine wind, rose from the Pacific, scattering and sinking the fleets, sparing Japan from an almost certain subjugation. It was a miracle, a divine intervention that carved Japan's unique path of isolation. But what if the winds never blew? Imagine the year 1281. Kublai Khan, chafing from the previous failure, had assembled an even larger force. Over 140,000 soldiers, Mongols, Chinese, Koreans, embarked on thousands of ships. Their objective, Hakata Bay on Kyushu, Japan's southernmost main island. This time, the skies remained clear, the seas calm. Admiral Hongdagu and General Orion, the commanders of this colossal fleet, saw no ill omen, only the path to victory. Their confidence was unshakable, buoyed by the empire's vast resources and a proven track record of conquest from Europe to Southeast Asia. This time, nothing would stop the Mongol tide from washing over Japan. On a crisp autumn morning, the Mongol vanguard made landfall near Hakata Bay. The initial skirmishes were brutal. The Japanese defenders, led by local lords like Kikuchi Takefusa, were primarily mounted samurai, renowned for their individual prowess and honor. They rode out, often challenging Mongol commanders to single combat, a ritualistic approach honed over centuries. But the Mongols did not fight honorably. They fought to win. Their tactical doctrine was one of overwhelming force, coordinated unit movements, and disciplined ranks. The clash of these two military philosophies began on the beaches of Kyushu, a tragic prelude to the island's fate. The battle for Hakata was a stark illustration of two wildly different military doctrines colliding. Japanese samurai relied on individual skill, their legendary katanas, and precise archery. They fought with a warrior's code, seeking personal glory. The Mongols, however, brought a devastatingly modern approach, massed cavalry charges, intricate feigned retreats, and volley fire from composite bows. Crucially, they deployed early forms of gunpowder weapons, explosive bombs and fire arrows, that terrified the Japanese horses and created chaos in their tightly packed formations. The very ground trembled under the weight of Mongol strategy. Despite heroic resistance, the superior numbers and tactics of the Mongol forces proved overwhelming. Within weeks, Kyushu was a theater of relentless battle. The samurai, accustomed to smaller-scale clan skirmishes, were simply not equipped to face an army of this magnitude, nor its advanced weaponry. Fortress after fortress fell, not to frontal charges, but to siege engines and the demoralizing thunder of gunpowder. The local lords, many of whom had fought valiantly, were either killed or forced to yield. The island of Kyushu, a bulwark against the mainland, became the Mongol foothold, a grim testament to Kublai Khan's resolve. With Kyushu secured, the Mongol forces did not hesitate. Their objective was Kyoto, the imperial capital, and the seat of the shogun. The crossing of the Seto Inland Sea was swift, a testament to their naval power. Along the main island of Honshu, news of Kyushu's fall had already spread, sowing panic. Emperor Go-Uda and the Kamakura shogunate scrambled to mount a defense, but their forces were fragmented, their morale shattered. The Mongols, now seasoned in Japanese terrain, moved with brutal efficiency, leaving a trail of subjugated towns and broken resistance in their wake. The dream of an untouched island nation was rapidly evaporating. 3 months after the initial landing, the Mongol army arrived at Kyoto's outskirts. The capital, famed for its elegant palaces and temples, was never designed for prolonged siege warfare. Its defenses were symbolic, not strategic. The climactic battle was less a prolonged siege and more a swift, brutal assault. The Imperial Guard, once proud protectors, fought valiantly but were overwhelmed. Emperor Go-Uda, along with key members of the court, was captured. The shogun, Hojo Tokimune, chose ritual suicide rather than surrender, ending the Kamakura shogunate's reign in a final, tragic act of defiance. The heart of Japan had fallen. With the fall of Kyoto, Japan's independence ceased to exist. Kublai Khan, now master of a truly vast empire, established a new administration. Japan became a province of the Yuan dynasty, governed by a dairagaki, a Mongol governor-general, supported by a Chinese and Korean bureaucracy. The former Japanese feudal lords, those who survived and pledged loyalty, found their lands redistributed, their power diminished. The emperor was reduced to a ceremonial figurehead, his divine lineage now subservient to the great Khan. The traditional shogunate system, which had ruled Japan for centuries, was dismantled, ushering in an era of direct foreign rule. The immediate impact of Mongol rule was a radical overhaul of Japan's governance. The old feudal system, with its network of loyalties and decentralized power, was systematically dismantled. Lands were surveyed and reallocated, often taken from rebellious samurai and given to loyal vassals or Mongol administrators. Taxes were now collected directly for the Yuan court, and a census was conducted to better control the populace and extract resources. Infrastructure projects, like roads and postal stations, were initiated to integrate Japan into the wider imperial network. This was not merely occupation, it was a fundamental re-engineering of Japanese society. Perhaps the most profound long-term change was the end of Japan's nascent isolationism. For centuries, Japan had largely managed its own affairs, engaging with China and Korea on its own terms. Now, it was forcefully integrated into the Pax Mongolica, a vast economic and cultural network stretching from Eastern Europe to Southeast Asia. Japanese ports, once largely focused on regional trade, became crucial links in the Mongol global trade system. Merchants from Persia, India, and even Europe now had direct access to Japanese goods, and in return, new ideas and commodities flowed into Japan, breaking down its insular worldview. The economic impact was staggering. Japan, rich in silver and copper, became a vital resource for the Yuan dynasty. These precious metals flowed out, financing Mongol endeavors and stimulating their economy. In return, Japan received a wealth of goods it had never seen before, exotic spices from India, advanced textiles from China, and even a nascent demand for European curiosities. This new trade spurred domestic industries, particularly shipbuilding, to support the increased maritime traffic, and a burgeoning artisan class. The closed economy of feudal Japan rapidly transformed into a vibrant, if exploited, component of the global Mongol marketplace. The Mongols were not merely conquerors, they were conduits of innovation. With their arrival, Japan was exposed to a wave of advanced technologies and scientific knowledge. The most immediate and impactful was gunpowder. While the samurai had seen it, they had not adopted it. Now, it became standard issue for garrisons and eventually, for a new breed of Japanese soldiers. Printing technology from China, far more advanced than anything in Japan, allowed for wider dissemination of texts. Cartography, astronomy, and even new agricultural techniques from across the vast empire found their way to the Japanese islands, sparking a rapid modernization. Cultural exchange flourished under Mongol rule, though not always peacefully. Chinese and Korean customs, language, and art forms became prevalent in urban centers. Mongol courtly practices influenced local Japanese elites. While Buddhism remained strong, new schools of thought, including those from China and even faint echoes of Nestorian Christianity and Islam from further west, reached Japan's shores. Architecture, culinary arts, and even fashion saw infusions of foreign styles. This forced intermingling created a hybrid culture, distinctly Japanese, yet undeniably shaped by its imperial overlords, leading to a dynamic and diverse society. For the samurai, the conquest was a profound challenge to their very identity. Stripped of their feudal power and traditional roles, many were forced to adapt. Some became mercenary guards for the Mongol administration, their martial skills still valued. Others turned to banditry, leading localized rebellions that were brutally suppressed. The concept of Bushido, the warrior's code, evolved, adapting to a new world where individual valor often meant little against organized might. The proud warrior class, once the backbone of Japan, found itself navigating a complex path between preservation of tradition and pragmatic survival under foreign dominion. Despite the overwhelming Mongol control, resistance was never entirely extinguished. Pockets of defiance persisted, particularly in remote mountainous regions and on distant islands. These were not large-scale rebellions, but rather localized insurrections and acts of sabotage, often led by disaffected samurai or religious sects. The Mongols responded with harsh reprisals, employing scorched earth tactics and collective punishment. This constant, simmering resentment required a permanent and substantial Mongol garrison, draining resources from the Yuan dynasty and fueling a slow-burning animosity that would define the relationship between conqueror and conquered for generations. Far from being a backwater, a Mongol-controlled Japan would have been a crucial maritime anchor for the Pax Mongolica. Its strategic position in East Asia meant it could serve as a springboard for further Mongol naval expeditions into Southeast Asia or even across the Pacific. Instead of becoming an isolated nation, Japan would have been forced into an early role as a key player in a globalized medieval world. Its shipyards, its resources, and its modified martial traditions would contribute to the Greater Mongol project, fundamentally altering its self-perception and its interactions with neighboring lands for centuries to come. Consider the implications for the age of exploration. With Japan already integrated into a vast Eurasian network, European explorers arriving in the East in the 15th and 16th centuries would encounter a vastly different nation. No longer an enigma, Japan would be a known, if distant, outpost of the former Mongol Empire, perhaps even speaking a new lingua franca infused with Mongol and Chinese terms. Would the Portuguese and Spanish have found it easier to establish trade? Would Japan, already exposed to diverse cultures, have been more open, or perhaps more resistant, having endured centuries of foreign rule? The butterfly effect is profound. Ultimately, the story of a Mongol-conquered Japan is a narrative of profound transformation. The samurai, gunpowder, trade, isolation, and global expansion, every facet of Japanese history would have been irrevocably altered. A Japan that was outward-looking centuries earlier, a Japan whose culture was a rich tapestry of East Asian and Central Asian influences, a Japan whose destiny was tied to the greatest land empire in history. The absence of a storm, a mere quirk of fate, would have redirected the flow of history, creating a version of Japan that existed only in the realm of what-if. A stark reminder of how close reality came to a vastly different past.